Arpu udeu ki anochi Elohim. Most of you will better recognize that Hebrew verse with its English equivalent, which is the first part of Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. Now, I've heard many people and pastors use that verse to encourage those going through a difficult time to be quiet, stay calm, and enjoy the peace of God. But is that really what this verse is saying in the original language and context? Stay with me and we will find out together. Hello amigos, Roberto here, and welcome to Misionali, where we study the Bible, we live it, and we share it with the world. Now, Psalm 46:10 is basically the climax of this chapter. So if we're going to properly interpret it, we need to take a brief look at what comes before this verse and get some context. In verses 1 to 3, we read the following. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though the waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. Selah. Before we get into the verses, let me make a quick note on the word Selah. Although no one knows for sure the exact meaning of this word, a common interpretation is that it is a point in the psalm where one is to pause, be silent, and ponder what has just been read. Regarding the verses, we are told that even if the earth is falling apart and natural chaos seems to be overwhelming the environment, we do not need to be afraid because God is our refuge, strength, and help in times of trouble. There's a slight echo here of the first part of Genesis 1, where the earth was formless, void, and without order. With a word, God put everything in its place, and He can do the same here, so there's no reason to fear. Verses 4 and 5 read as follows. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. Here we see a contrast between the chaos of the natural world and the stability of the city of God, which cannot be moved. And as His children, as we read in John 1:12, we are a part of that city, and it is here that we find safety, stability, and shelter. In verses 6 and 7, we read, The nations rage, the kingdoms totter, He utters His voice, the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our fortress, Selah. These verses show how the nations try their best to exert their power and destroy one another. But with His voice alone, the Lord can melt the earth. It is only in His presence that we find our security. Verses 8 to 9 read as follows. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how He has brought desolations on the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. These verses describe God's awesome power and how He can bring all wars to an end. Therefore, we should not only behold His mighty works, but we should regularly meditate on what He has done so that we do not forget who is in charge. Now, having that as a background, let's read verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. For our purposes, I'm going to focus only on the first part of the verse. In the previous verses of this chapter, we see two disruptive forces at work, nature and the nations. They are filled with chaos, disruption, and rebellion. In contrast, we see God's awesome power and protection for those who trust in Him. Now, with that in mind, let me go over 3 important points. The first item is that the two commands, be still and know, are plural. So the Lord is addressing a group of people, in this case the nations, not an individual. He's basically letting them know that they can continue with their petty wars and power struggles, or they can recognize Him as the almighty and powerful God and submit to His authority. Now read Psalm 2 to see an example of those who conspire against God and choose not to listen to His sovereignty. Second, the command be still comes from the root word rapha, which means to be weak, to let go, to release, or even in some poetic Hebrew contexts, it refers to the place of the dead. In other words, groups of people, societies, and nations are to cease striving to be their own God and instead are to die to themselves and put their entire lives in trust in Almighty God. So as you can see, be still is not about quiet meditation, but about crucifying your carnal desires and giving your life completely to the Lord as you submit completely to His sovereign authority. The third and final point is this. In Hebrew grammar, whenever you see two imperatives, in this case, be still and know, the emphasis is on the second command. So it would be helpful to interpret this verse as if God is speaking here. Lay down your arms, surrender yourself. In other words, be still so that, in order that, you may know that I am the one and only victorious God. If your life is all about you, you will never truly know Almighty God. You will forsake an intimacy with the Lord that is greater than anything you can desire in this world. On the other hand, if you die to yourself and stop relying on your own limited knowledge and abilities, then you will know the Lord in the most amazing way, and He will give you the wisdom and power to live the most fulfilling existence possible on this earth. In John 10:10, Jesus says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." Dear friends, I pray this time was helpful and that this teaching helped make clear the meaning of this verse. May you be blessed abundantly by God, and Lord willing, I will see you in the next video.